Was Boromir weak, or was he just human? That question is what makes him one of the most misunderstood characters in The Lord of the Rings. Because on the surface, Boromir looks like the man who failed. He doubted the mission. He argued for using the ring. He tried to take it from Frodo. And because of that, a lot of people reduce him to one simple idea. Boromir was weak. But that is too simple. Boromir was not evil. He was not a coward. He was not some power-hungry villain waiting for his chance to betray the Fellowship. He was a soldier, carrying the fear of an entire kingdom on his back. He came from Gondor, the land standing closest to Mordor's shadow. While other kingdoms could speak of evil as a distant threat, Boromir lived with it at his doorstep. So when he saw the ring, he did not just see temptation. He saw a weapon. He saw a chance. He saw the survival of his people. And that is why Boromir's fall is so tragic. The ring did not create his weakness. It exposed his humanity. To understand Boromir, you have to understand Gondor. Gondor was not some peaceful kingdom casually watching the war from a distance. Gondor was the shield in front of the storm. Mordor was right there. Its armies were growing. Its darkness was spreading. Its power was returning. And Gondor had been fighting that threat for generations. Boromir was raised in that pressure. He was not raised like a carefree prince in a golden hall. He was raised as a warrior in a kingdom that expected him to stand between his people and destruction. That changes how he sees the world. When Boromir arrives at the Council of Elrond, he is not thinking like a hobbit. He is not thinking like an elf. He is not thinking like a wizard. He is thinking like a commander. A commander looks at danger and asks, how do we survive this? So when everyone says the ring must be destroyed, Boromir struggles with that idea. Not because he is stupid, because to him, destroying the most powerful weapon in the world sounds insane when his city is about to be crushed. That is the first thing people miss about Boromir. He is not arguing because he wants evil. He is arguing because he is terrified of losing everything. The ring does not tempt everyone the same way. That is one of the scariest things about it. It does not simply whisper, be evil. It takes what is already inside you and twists it. With Boromir, the ring did not need to invent ambition from nothing. It used his courage. It used his loyalty. It used his love for Gondor. That is what makes his temptation so dangerous. Boromir's desire was not purely selfish at first. He wanted to defend his people. He wanted to save his home. He wanted to stop Mordor from destroying the world he knew. Those are not evil desires. But the ring is dangerous because it corrupts even noble desires. It tells the warrior, you could win. It tells the protector, you could save them. It tells the desperate man, you do not have to watch your city die. That is exactly where Boromir was vulnerable. He did not look at the ring and only see personal glory. He saw Minas Tirith. He saw soldiers dying on the walls. He saw families living under fear. He saw his father, his brother, and his people expecting him to come back with hope. And the ring turned that love into temptation. That is not weakness in the simple sense. That is a good thing being twisted into something dangerous. Boromir's biggest mistake was believing the ring could be controlled. He thought the ring was a weapon. But the ring was not just a weapon. It was Sauron's will, Sauron's malice, and Sauron's hunger for domination, placed into physical form. You do not use the ring. The ring uses you. That is the lesson Boromir could not fully accept. To a warrior, a weapon is a tool. A sword can defend or destroy, depending on the hand that holds it. A fortress can protect or oppress, depending on who commands it. But the ring is different. The ring has a corrupting will of its own. Boromir wanted to believe that a strong man with a noble purpose could use it for good. And that is exactly the kind of thinking the ring feeds on. Because once you say, "I will use evil just this once for a good reason," the ring already has a path into your mind. Boromir thought his strength would protect him. But the ring does not attack only the weak. It attacks the proud. It attacks the desperate. It attacks the people who believe they are strong enough to handle it. That is why Boromir's fall matters. He was not weak because he was easily tempted. He was human because he believed his good intentions could protect him from corruption. Frodo understood something Boromir did not. The ring could not be used safely. Frodo was not stronger than Boromir. He was not wiser than Elrond or more powerful than Gandalf. But he understood the burden differently. He saw what the ring did to people. At the council, he watched it create arguments, fear, and temptation. The moment people looked at it, they started imagining what they could do with it. Boromir looked at the ring and saw hope. Frodo looked at the ring and saw danger. That difference is what made their conflict so painful. Boromir was not trying to destroy the world. He believed Frodo was carrying away Gondor's last chance. But the more desperate Boromir became, the more the ring worked on him. His fear became obsession. His loyalty became pressure. His hope became corruption. Boromir's attempt to take the ring is one of the darkest moments in the Fellowship. Not because it turns him into a villain, because it shows how fast a good man can break under the right pressure. He corners Frodo. He argues. He pleads. He grows angry. And finally, he tries to take what was never his. That is the moment people remember. That is the moment they use against him. But what matters is what happens immediately after. Boromir comes back to himself. He realizes what he has done. He is horrified. That reaction tells us everything. A truly evil man would justify it. A power-hungry man would keep chasing Frodo. A servant of darkness would embrace the corruption. But Boromir breaks down because he recognizes his own failure. That is not the reaction of a villain. That is the reaction of a man who has fallen and suddenly sees the damage. His tragedy is not that he was secretly bad. His tragedy is that he was good enough to know he had done wrong. That is why his fall hurts. Because Boromir is not a monster. He is a warning. Boromir's story does not end with his failure. That is what makes him great. After the ring breaks him, he still has one choice left. He can stay fallen, or he can stand back up. And he stands back up. When Merry and Pippin are in danger, Boromir fights to protect them. He does not fight for glory. He does not fight for the ring. He does not fight because anyone is watching. He fights because it is right. That final stand matters because it shows who Boromir really was beneath the temptation. A warrior. A protector, a a man who failed but did not surrender his soul to failure. He dies defending the weak. That is not weakness. That is humanity at its most tragic and noble. Boromir could not defeat the ring inside his own mind, but he could still choose courage at the end. That is why Aragorn honors him. That is why his death matters. He does not die as a traitor. He dies as a son of Gondor. Broken, yes. Guilty, yes. But redeemed. Boromir is uncomfortable because he feels real. Most of us like to imagine we would be Frodo. We would carry the burden. We would resist the temptation. We would do the right thing no matter what. But Boromir asks a harder question. What if the ring offered you exactly what you thought you needed? What if it promised to save your family? What if it promised to protect your city? What if it told you that refusing power was the same as letting innocent people die? That is why Boromir is so human. His temptation is not cartoonish. He is not tempted by a throne because he wants a fancy chair. He is tempted by the possibility that he can stop suffering. That is dangerous because it sounds almost reasonable. That is how corruption often works in Tolkien's world. It does not always begin with hatred. Sometimes it begins with fear. Sometimes it begins with urgency. Sometimes it begins with the belief that you are the only one strong enough to do what must be done. Boromir's mistake was not caring too little. It was carrying too much without humility.
So was Boromir weak? In one sense, yes, he failed. He gave in to temptation. He tried to take the ring. He scared Frodo and helped break the Fellowship apart. We should not erase that. Boromir's fall had consequences. But if we call him simply weak, we miss the deeper point. Boromir was strong in battle, strong in loyalty, strong in courage, and strong in love for Gondor. But he was weak against the exact temptation designed for him. That is what the ring does. It does not need to defeat you where you are already guarded. It finds the door you left open. For Boromir, that door was desperation. He wanted to save Gondor so badly that he became vulnerable to the one thing that could destroy him from the inside. So the answer is not that Boromir was weak or human. The answer is that he was human, and humanity includes weakness. That is why his story works. He is not a simple failure. He is a complete person. Brave, flawed, proud, afraid, loyal, tempted, broken, and redeemed. So what?
Boromir was not weak in the way people usually mean it. He was human. He carried the fear of Gondor. He carried the pressure of war. He carried the expectations of his father, his people, and his own pride. When the ring found him, it did not need to turn him into something completely new. It only had to twist what was already there. His courage became arrogance. His loyalty became desperation. His hope became obsession. But his final act shows the truth of his character. Boromir fell, but he did not stay fallen. He failed Frodo, but he died protecting Merry and Pippin. He tried to take the ring, but in the end, he gave his life for others. That is why Boromir remains one of the most tragic and human characters in The Lord of the Rings. He reminds us that good people can fail, that fear can corrupt even noble intentions, and that redemption still matters. So, was Boromir weak? Maybe for a moment, but only because he was human. And in the end, he died like a man who remembered who he was.